when COVID happened, right, I realized that we were kind of stuck at home, and I was like, I'm getting, I need to get some exercise. So I started riding my bike just around, and tripping out on all the stuff that you see when you're not in a car. And there's a lot of weird shit that you see on your bike. You know that. You just look, and there's just weird shit all over the place. And so I started street creep just to, get healthy, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah.
And then I started adding friends reluctantly because, a lot of the rides are in the morning.
Okay.
So it's sort of like, getting your musician friends up at, 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, but that's the best time because, it's less cars.
Exactly.
So, we just started doing that. And then I met up with some other friends who were like, hey, I ride too. And then we just started having this crew. And so, and the thing about the rides, they're like, sometimes you see the dudes who are hardcore on their, with the spandex, and they're real fucking hardcore.
I know. They intimidate me a little bit because I'm like, damn, I should get more gear. I feel like so I just got me and my helmet, but every time I see somebody pass by with all this cool gear, I feel like a little under geared up. I don't know what it's called.
Dude, that's totally like, and they're like, they're all tripped out. I'm like, we're like the bad news bears of bicycling.
I always get the stare, like, fuck these guys. Like, you get that little stare as they're passing by, like, oh God, these guys.
Yeah. And they're always yelling, hey, we're on your left. We're on your left.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, just chill out, man. You're going to get there, when we get there too.
100%.
Yeah. So that's what we do that. And a lot of times it's real therapeutic. I think people really look forward to the rides from a break from their life.
Exactly. 100%.
So.
And to me, the rides are just, I don't know. I hate to bring everything back to movies, but when I'm on that bike and I've got my music playing, and especially if I'm, by myself or with people, like, it feels so cinematic.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, because you're moving at that speed and you're seeing things in a different way, and you feel like anything could happen. Like, there's just this little mini adventure you're going on, because, you could be at your house or whatever, but it's like the fact that you're out doing something, it gives that potential for anything could happen.
Anything can happen. Anything will happen.
Yeah, anything will happen.
There's a scene in Gummo.
Oh, yes.
When they're on top of the mountain, and then it's the two kids, I forgot them, Tumblr and the other guy.
Yeah.
And Sleep's Dragonaut is playing as they're going down the hill. And every time we're on our bike rides, I feel like those two dudes... Yeah. And, Dragonaut is playing in the background. It's just like the coolest thing.
Fuck yeah. When's the first time you saw Gummo?
In the 90s, probably. 90.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when it came out. 94, maybe?
Probably,
93, 94. So it was just a few years after that.
Did somebody recommend it to you? Were you in the video store?
I definitely was in Blockbuster Video, and I saw the thing. And
the cover.
Like, yeah, with the boy on it.
Exactly.
Solomon. That's his name, Solomon.
Yeah. But that's one of those movies where, because I was talking about in a previous episode, when you would go to the video store and you would see that cover and it would intrigue you so fucking much that you take it home and you take a risk on it.
Yeah.
And especially with Gummo, that's a huge risk. You're putting that in and it blows your mind as a kid or a teenager whenever you're watching it, or even as an adult. It totally blows your fucking mind.
Oh, big time. Yeah, because you don't know what, there's no like synopsis that tells you. I mean, it tells you like a little bit in the back the cover, and you're like, that sounds interesting.
But just how he films and everything, it's just that tone of bizarre, it's bizarre realism. I don't know how to explain it, but he captures it in such a way that seeing movies like that are what really kind of inspired me, to even fall in love with movies in the first place, that you could take it in such an experimental way and really make someone feel something that they couldn't even expect, like right. It's just, and it's doing something in such a different way. And that's why I fucking I don't know if that's Larry Clark or, I know I'm trying, and that's why sometimes I'm not a movie expert. Yeah. I'm not pretending to be a movie expert. I just love movies, but that was a movie that fucking, it just encapsulates what I feel is like experimental cinema.
What's your favorite scene? Do you have a favorite scene?
I know there's a scene. I think where he's dancing in a room with there's a girl with him or a mom, and I would love to rewatch it. Now you've triggered my mind, but there's just I remember it's either a singing scene or there's music playing or something. Yes,
Madonna.
and it's and to this
working out.
Yes, and to this day I remember watching that. And I'm like, I would just remember being hypnotized.
Yeah,
and I don't know why. It's like certain things I like so much, and I don't even know why. And the fact that I don't know why, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to question it even too deeply. It's just like whatever he put on screen, and as I'm watching it, the mixture of the music, and maybe it's just a little bit off, you know, it's incredible, and it's hard to replicate. It's not easy.
Yeah, you know, actually, I think I heard the soundtrack first, maybe, you know, because it has like a lot of extreme music.
Oh shit!
But also some other really cool stuff. Maybe that's where I was like, oh, and then I saw the thing. I was like, oh, I got to check that out.
And when you saw it, were you already into quote unquote extreme music?
Yeah. Yeah.
When did that start?
I think when, you know, back in the day, you know, when my dad had he had 8 tracks, right? And I was like, damn, that guy's cool. He had Blood, and it was Gene Simmons.
Oh, Kiss. Fuck yeah.
I mean,
Claudia's dad loves Kiss.
It's like, how, you know, I mean, when you think about it, you're like, okay, here's a dude, you know, he's like a demon guy, and he's spitting blood, and he's blowing fire, and he just looks cool. I mean, that's like, you know, it's a little different than Barry Manilow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, wow, this guy is insane. So I think, you know, maybe, or my dad used to also play this Ted Nugent album. It was Live Gonzo, and there was a song called Wang Dang Sweet Poontang. And in the beginning, he has this, Ted Nugent comes out. I mean, Ted Nugent now, you know, whatever. Like, you know, but back, you know,
the musician.
70s, it was like, he's a musician. Mm-hmm. And he had this thing where he was like, it was a live album, live double Gonzo, I think maybe. He came out and he was like, a monologue. He goes, hey, anybody here come to get mellow, right? And everyone's like, no. And he's like, anybody come to get mellow? You know, you turn around and get the fuck out. And I was like, damn. That's hard.
Right.
But yeah, I think that kind of started it, you know, and then progressively I was just getting into like a little harder metal and then punk, crossover, grindcore, finally to noise music. You know?
And does it make you feel a certain type of way, or what's the main draw of that genre of music?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, there was a time when I was playing like straight music, you know, meaning verse, chorus, melody type stuff, which is really cool. That's always fun. I still love like soft rock.
Yeah.
As much as I love like, you know, power violence. You know, It's music is beautiful. But there came a point where I was like playing, and something kind of hit me. Like, and going back to movies, Apocalypse Now, remember?
Yeah.
Colonel Kurtz was like, it hit me in the middle of my forehead like I think it was like a diamond bullet.
Oh, shit.
And I was playing music, and something hit me in the middle of my forehead like a diamond bullet. And I was like, man, this is not like cool, not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think I started to do freeform type music, you know, and it was really different, you know, and it was like there was no rules. You know, and it was just real. There were no rules, and I liked that.
Improvisational?
Yeah. At first, it was more like samples.
Okay.
And samples and like oscillating sounds that I would manipulate live while they were kind of going. But then it sort of morphed into like I would play the guitar. Like just like no tuning, heavy feedback.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the feedback was super important. You know, going back to we were talking about Jimi Hendrix. Like, you know, I think he's like the OG noise dude. You know, when he was doing some of those things on his guitar, just like beautiful, crazy noises. You know, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then you know, there's bands that I was listening to that were using that feedback as part of the song.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, hey, this is cool. You know, and so I started kind of going more into like guitar noise, which I thought was really, really freeing.
Yeah.
You know, it just coming through like a loud amplifier through your back, you know, it just felt good. You know, it was just like death massage. And so, you know, that was fun, you know, doing that playing.
It was a little bit, was it just a little bit more, I guess, exciting in the fact that you didn't know where it was going?
Yeah. And sometimes it could suck, and sometimes it did suck. Sometimes I was like, oh, I'm going to do something, and it was like really bad.
Yeah.
And so, but there are other times where I did some stuff, and I was like, man, I felt real good about, this 3-minute piece. And sometimes my sets would be no more than 5 minutes, and I think that was the beauty of it too. Cause there's another, like a thought where someone who's playing noise, and they're kind of going on for a real long time.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wow, we got to wrap it up a little bit, but so I think these short, compact sets of just you're getting in and you're getting out, I think were really important.
But you had to find that out over time?
Yeah.
By playing, did you go long sometimes when you played, or was it always compact?
I try to make it compact, I think when you're in the zone, it's kind of hard to think about time, but I just feel like when you hit that grotesque crescendo, you're like, okay, that's where I need to stop.
And when you're performing, are you just thinking about yourself, or are you also thinking about the audience?
I'm always, I like visual things. Like I like things that are verbose. I like things that border on the absurd, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, like even though it's noise, it's got to have kind of like some humor in it, right?
Yeah.
So visually speaking, I always like to present something that is a little bit different. So I'll always think, well, what's something bizarre that I could do? And one time I was like, I'll play with like butcher knives. So I had I was playing the guitar and I had butcher knives stuck behind my belt. And then during that moment, I whipped them out and I was just jamming, with these butcher knives. And then I thought, well, visually, that's probably a little bit more interesting than just kind of like, jamming on the guitar.
And is there a Gene Simmons influence there? Or we don't want to give him that much credit?
I would give him that credit.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, he was the guy who made me want to pick up the guitar.
But also to be like performer.
Yeah.
You're a musician, but you're also a performer.
Yeah. And you want to make things interesting,
For the audience too, right? So there is some consideration of the audience, and even if it's a consideration of just, I'm going to make them be frustrated, but you're cognizant of what you're kind of doing and how the music is making them feel.
Right. And I think that's the thing that's important with Stay Strange was that, before, when we were like doing shows, noise shows, not everybody was hip to the idea.
Yeah.
And so, people would always comment, "Hey, what are you doing?" They were real like bummed out, and were confrontational and
wow.
Excuse me. So,
but that must mean you're doing your job. You're doing something, right? For them to have that feeling. They just maybe didn't know what that feeling was, and they expressed it in a confrontational way.
Yeah.
But instead of maybe embracing that sound,
right.
But how did you deal with that?
Play louder. Maybe.
So it was kind of a fuck you kind of thing.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like a fuck you, sometimes it would be like, okay, well, maybe I better stop, quit, and then before they come back with the, pull cue or something like that.
Has it ever gotten to that point?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Where they would say, I want to fight you. I want to physically fight you because of what you're playing.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is noise, well, yeah, it is. But, it's also an expression, you can't limit someone's, freedom of expression.
100%.
And so in a little bit, you get kind of like, there was one thing, where we were doing at the North Park book fair, right, where I had an artist, MJ Stevens, and he was playing this thing called a noise apparatus, which looked like, like a cymbal stand with all sorts of stuff attached to it.
Are You Strange episode 3?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw him play.
And so MJ Stevens, he's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so one guy was kind of looking, and he was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's him. He's expressing himself. This is his art."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, it sounds like noise and shit like this." And so I was kind of like getting really bummed out too. And I was like, you know what? I go, not everybody, shares your views on, it's just that's what he's doing, and
Yeah.
that's how he presents himself. And so he was just I said something I probably shouldn't have, and he was just real bummed out, man. He was kind of looking at me like this, like, and he kept looking at me, and, it was just a weird scenario, because not everybody, or sometimes we'd be playing and people, maybe in the audience were like trying to unplug our stuff.
Wow.
While we were playing, and so,
Wow.
But, the idea of Stay Strange is that, hey, when you come to a Stay Strange show, it's not going to be pop music, it's not going to be mainstream, you're coming to hear something, that's going to be challenging.
And the genesis of Stay Strange, was that in the 2012 era?
Yes.
That's when it kind of began, kind of thing?
Yeah. That's when I had like kind of like informal training.
Okay.
Where I worked with friends, and then I worked with a collective that were very structured. We weren't so, like, in the beginning, we weren't very structured. We would start shows late, we would finish late, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
So it was real, like, just kind of like haphazard. And then the other collective that I joined was really like, we're starting at X, we're ending at X.
Okay.
And that's it. And so I was like, So when I stopped with that group, and I started Stay Strange, it was like a combination of those two, but really more on the discipline side.
Exactly. That's what the second collective added, was that discipline.
Big time.
The other one was like being creative, free form, right, improvisational. But then what is that without the other side of the coin of discipline?
Right.
Being able to have a Stay Strange go for 10 plus years. You don't have that happen without having discipline.
Yeah. You're right. And also kind of like being polite too, like you don't want to burn out your venues, I
100%.
think hopefully, I tried to make sure, we clean up after everything, and like just be polite. Like when you allowed us, thanks again for you allowed us to do an event at your place, Loca, in Bankers Hill.
That's right, 2017 era. Yeah.
Yeah, and I try to make sure that we were done, and everything was just as the way you guys had left it,
100%. And the cool thing about Stay Strange, your shows, is that you always have out of the box venues like museums, chapels, libraries, parks, like places that are just kind of that you wouldn't associate with maybe noise music or experimental music, what you do. Like, how did that come to play?
That's a good question. I think the fact that Stay Strange was so strange is huge. I think people or organizers were like, what can we bring to an event that is going to be unique? And so they would reach out to me and say, hey, we would like you to do this or this or this. And I'm like, wow, really?
Fuck yeah.
Like, okay, sure, of course. Another thing was just, I guess maybe being at the right place at the right time, and making connections. And I think again that people say, they're doing something weird. Let's take a chance and let's, offer them a venue,
But it probably had to take a few years of you building that name of Stay Strange before people would actually reach out to you, right? Was it 3 or 4 years, or how long did it take?
It's funny. Right out of the bat, when I started Stay Strange, like, it was pretty, like, within, I don't know, a few months or so, I got a call from Space for Art.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah, right in downtown.
Yeah, and they were like, hey, you want to do shows here? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Oh, shit.
And so I started doing shows there, and then they allowed me to do, other stuff. And so...
What a blessing.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, to have that sick-ass space.
Yeah.
But you had built up before Stay Strange. Like you said, you were part of noise collectives.
Yeah.
So you were already an established noise artist?
Yeah.
Before
At
then?
that point, yeah.
Under the name, was it Jaja Gabor?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. So you kind of... You did that. You established yourself as an artist before even creating the collective or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like you've been on this building thing for so many years, and it's just like one thing leads to another, but it's really you're building something.
Yeah, I'm building something for San Diego, because I wasn't born here. I was born in Riverside, but I came down to Chula Vista when I was like 3.
Oh shit!
Like in fact, just right where the Pepper Park.
Oh shit!
Is like that little area.
Oh
like,
hell yeah!
That's where we came and we lived for a while. I grew up in Spring Valley ultimately.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I've always been like, I love San Diego as a city, and I always wanted to bolster our creative side, especially for the strange, experimental stuff.
And what does that word mean? Strange.
Well, okay, so stay strange it really is to someone who's listening. So we're already weird, right?
Yeah.
So someone who's kind of like on the out, I'm telling them, hey, stay strange, man, be strange, be weird, and then be part of us.
Right.
So that's who I'm really directing it to people who are on the outside looking in and going, wow, I'd like to do something. And that's like the nexus of the collective is join us.
And are there a lot of noise artists in San Diego?
There's not a whole lot. There used to be a lot. Like we would have shows and it was easy to kind of put together. But I think people move, or people grow out of it maybe.
But the new generation, right? Do you feel like there's people coming up now that are experimenting in noise?
Yeah, big time.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they are. There are, and it's cool seeing them.
And does it like you said, you like visuals? Your shows, is there usually some sort of visual element going on as well? Because it seems like noise music, at least to me, it's also very cinematic.
Yeah.
Like when I hear it, there's certain music when I hear it immediately, I can close my eyes and I can have these little pictures going on in my head that were created by the music.
Right.
Like, oh my God, what is this music telling me? What image is it creating in my head? And I love that.
Because it's soundtracky.
It's soundtracky.
Right, because there's no vocals or,
Fuck yes.
It's, so, I mean, I'm not going to knock anybody's performance, but I feel that if somebody has a presentation, that's visually appealing.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I know a lot of noise artists kind of, including some of my stuff might have been just me at a table, and just doing that. And it's cool. That's good, but it's cool to see someone who's really like puts a lot into their character. I guess I call it character, because.
Do you feel like a character when you're performing, or?
Yeah, I think the idea was supposed to have been, back in those like the early times, noise artists would always have these real grotesque names, or offensive kind of things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, Zsa Zsa Gabor is a weird. It's not like like blood milkshake or anything like that. It's like what is it? Like it's a name of an actress, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
Like I always like, it looks cool. Like I can see it on, I always go, how will it look on a t-shirt?
There you go.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that would look cool on a t-shirt. And so I started to use that name, because I also like the humor of it.
Well, because is it a little absurd because you're really not inspired by Zsa Zsa Gabor? Like she's not somebody that really was a big thing. It was almost just like, I like your name. It's not even about what she stands for or what she does. It's just, I like the name I'm putting on her shirt, and it doesn't really even have to make sense of why it worked. And that's the funny part. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. And that's the strange part.
It's the strange part. Well, it was either going to be Zsa Zsa Gabor or Klaus Kinski.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like Zsa Zsa Gabor because it had the Z's, and it had all these cool straight lines, and it just seemed totally absurd.
100%, and it rolls off the tongue. And are you still performing under Zsa Zsa Gabor?
No, I broke up the band.
Oh, fuck.
I broke up the band at Helmuth.
Oh,
yeah, it was
shit.
I don't remember when that was. I put out a cassette tape, and I had some friends do vocals on top of the recording. And I broke up. I mean, I figured kind of like it ran its course. So it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when you have made this horrendous noise?
Yeah.
Like what's next? And to me, I started another project called the Sorcerer Family.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Right. Which is ukulele.
Electric ukulele?
Yeah. And I call it
ukulele.
Ukulele. Exactly. Yeah. That's
I heard it at one of your videos.
Yeah. Ukulele. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like you coming out of this like electronic thing, and once you hear an explosion, it's like dead silent. So I started something that was like organic.
That was like, what's next after that explosion?
Yeah.
After a huge bomb goes off, after what
Right.
what comes next?
What comes next?
And that is the Sorcerers.
The Sorcerer family.
Family.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And so it was of that ukulele, right? And so it was very organic. It was of the earth. You know, I still feel like it's of the earth. You know, it has to do with nature and you know, more of like a kind of a spiritual thing. And but you know, I can never get out of the noise thing. So I'm starting to like marry them into one. So it's the you know, the folk music kind of, but also there's a noise aspect to it.
Because the noise will never leave.
It'll never leave.
No matter what rendition you're doing or
Right.
what new band, it's the noise element is always going to be there.
It's always going to be there.
And what does it mean to listen with an open mind?
Well, I think, you know, you have to give the subject, you know, like you have to give the subject respect, you know, maybe. And the open mind part comes when you're not like really judging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I guess it's hard because sometimes I hear something and I'm like, oh man, that sucks. But it's just because I've listened to too much music, you know?
Yeah.
And you hear something, you're like, that's that's you know, that's hard. But I think, you know, something that's completely new and completely different than what you've been hearing is that's the part where you have to just kind of like say, okay, let me give it a chance.
Give it a chance. Exactly.
And you may listen to it and like, that's crap. Or you might listen to it and go, whoa, that's like a movie soundtrack. Like you were saying.
Exactly.
I'd like to invest some time in it.
100%.
Yeah.
And you've curated an audience, it seems like, over time where people do listen with open ears and open minds.
I think so.
Well, I saw it at the to get to recent times. I saw it at the Stay Strange first annual short film festival.
Right.
You threw at the Rolando Library just a few weeks ago.
Right.
And we'll get into the genesis of how that started and everything and how it came to that. But what I noticed when I attended there was that the audience was super attentive to all these films, like laser focused. Yeah. It was, first of all, a packed house. It was a packed house. And I was, and this was, there was about 24 short films, a 2-hour running time, no breaks in between. Right. And your audience was there watching, and hardly anybody got up. And it was just, I'm telling you, laser focused and very respectful of all of the short films, clapping, you know, really reacting to it. And I was just like, oh my God, these were challenging films. You know, like very challenging in that they're abstract, you know, they're all awesome and everything like that. But for that many people in one room to be laser focused and to give so much attention, I think that not only says stuff about the film, but also about Stay Strange, like how much respect they have for what you've built, you know, and the audience that you're curating, because I'm telling you, that's not easy to do, to bring that many people together and to have them all have such respect for the art that you're presenting and have it be abstract. This is not easily digestible art. Right. You know, so just taking a step back and seeing like, wow, you did that. You know, that's really fucking awesome. You know, that you're bringing people with you on that journey of acceptance. You know, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, you know, there was points where I was like, maybe someone's gonna leave. You know, people are gonna take off. But they you know, for the most part, stayed for the whole thing. And I think, you know, at the end of it, I was kind of jesting. I was like, oh, well, next year we'll have an intermission. You know, because,
you learn as you, You know,
it's just time-wise, I was sort of kind of like, you know, not under restraints, but I think I didn't realize the amount of films that I was going to get, you know.
Which is awesome.
It was really awesome because they kind of trickled in, you know, at first, you know, there were just a few, and I was like, wow, we're going to have a nice 10-minute, you know, festival. And all of a sudden they started coming in. How
long before the deadline were you receiving films?
Well, I put a deadline of January 15th.
Okay.
So I had everything by then.
Okay. And the show was on
the 28th.
Oh, okay. So you had a good week or so knowing what you had and everything like that.
Yeah, I learned my
lesson. But how were a lot of these filmmakers that reached out to you? Was it the first time that you had met them?
Yeah, a few of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd say 60% were people that I did not know.
Oh shit. And tell us, like, this is the first annual Stay Strange film festival. So how did that music to film, how did you make that connection? How did you decide this is where I'm going?
Well, someone had approached me and they're like, "Hey, can you play my film at the next show, your next Stay Strange show?" And I was like, I go, "Yeah, sure." And then I thought about it. It's like, well, fuck, we'll just do a film festival around it. And so I was like, okay, we're doing a film festival.
But I'm saying, but how did it go in your mind to be like, for you to make that first statement, like, we're having a film festival? Because I know that's not, I mean, you're taking on a big task right there and you've never done it before. So how do you, is it just that you've just been so good at actualizing things in the past that you have this confidence, like, I'm just going to do it?
Yeah, I'm very confident. As long as I have the venue, I'll do anything. You know, a lot of these shows are always like that. Like, we did something that I was like, well, let's do a experimental guitar show. Yeah. And so we did it for, like, 6 or 7 years.
Where was it? Different venues?
Soda Bar.
Okay.
Really, mostly Soda Bar.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, we did them all at the Soda Bar. We did one actually last year at Bread and Salt.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
It was sort of like the reemergence of the experimental guitar show.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, that's cool. I go, well, how about an experimental drum show? Okay. And so I put together this program called Peculiar Percussions.
Okay.
And it was an experimental drum show where people were bringing in, like, one artist had drum machines, another artist had, like, this weird kind of, like, sculpture that he was doing stuff on. And it's always like, well, what can we do? Yeah. Let's just do it. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And as long as there's a place to put it, I'm going to do it.
And you've been having, and you've, like you said, had success over the years finding, it's not just one venue. I mean, venues all throughout San Diego and beyond, honestly.
Yeah.
So is it just that you're good at talking to these venue, the people that own the venues? Like, are they just, like, what is it?
Yeah, I think when I started to build a relationship with the library, that's always amazing. Just like that was a huge door for me to do things that I love. Libraries and music shows. Like, I love libraries. Like, I've been going to the library ever since I was a kid. Chula Vista Library.
Hell yeah.
And so ever since then, I just loved books. I'm looking at all your books over here. I might go to Strange Days later after
fuck
see
yeah.
if they got some books over there.
Fuck yeah.
So when I was approached to do a show at the library at Malcolm X, Valencia Park.
Yes.
I just was like, I just jumped at the chance and put it together. And that kind of opened up the doors for the librarian to say, hey, this is cool. Let's do something. So having that was great, to have music shows at the library. I mean, at the Central Library of all places, in like a multi-million-dollar
oh my God.
Theater.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Is there any libraries in San Diego that are still on your checklist of like, oh, I would love to have a show there?
Yeah, all of them.
Right. Yeah, right. Fuck yeah.
As long as they have a spot,
Exactly.
Yeah, as long as they have a spot.
And they're cool with when you do noise music or any of your shows, like, because you would think libraries.
Yeah, there has to be a little there has to be some agreement, I think.
Yeah.
I can't blow out, and that's the other thing to be cognizant with is, not to bum anybody out, especially the library or so we're able to get away with a lot.
Yeah.
We're able to get away with a lot. Like at the Malcolm X Library, we had author and Punisher, who's a huge industrial. At that time, he was a solo project, right? And it's just monstrous kind of electronic doom with these machines that he made. He has an engineering background, Tristan, and so when we played the Malcolm X, we literally blew out the whole system.
Oh shit! That was your first show, right? The Malcolm X was that the first kind of library show?
Mm-hmm.
And so all the stuff blew out. So what were you thinking? Were you like, oh God, I'm fucked?
We're like, oh no. And then somehow someone managed to turn the power back on. I think like a blew.
Oh, turned it off and on, and they're like, oh, okay,
yeah, it's bad.
Fuck. Okay, good, you're good.
And then I think he blew it out again. And finally, I think we made it work.
But did you end up working with them again in the future?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
A couple times after that.
Oh,
yeah.
fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there will be a part 2 of the short film festival.
I think so.
I think, yeah. No, I can you make an announcement now?
There will be a part 2. Yeah. Yes, there will be a part 2.
Because I want to create. It inspired me so much to create something for that next show, because you even said, if you're looking at this and you say, oh, if you're in the audience saying, oh, I could do that or this and that, he says, well, go fucking do it.
Yeah.
Go fucking do it. And that is such an inspiring thing to say, because I think a lot of people sometimes do say, oh, well, I could do that. I could do that. Well, it's one thing to say it, and then it's another thing to actually do it. And then once you do it, you realize, oh my God, it was not only worth it, but it was challenging. It's not easy, So what everybody does, for them to get a completed film into that film festival, it's like a huge bravo, a huge applause for them. It's a huge accomplishment. Yeah. And everybody did fucking awesome. And I love the one that permeated my brain, like 3 weeks later, where I'm still kind of thinking about, is that Forbidden Cake.
Oh, yeah.
I really did like that.
That was great.
I really did like something about it. I just keep thinking about it. I like how he did like a loop, how it feels like it was a never-ending kind of cycle of people coming in the shop and having to eat this cake and being possessed by whatever. It just... And the fact that they filmed it in like a ramen shop, I just love that hustle, of just being like, oh, we asked our favorite restaurant if we could film it there. And just that you don't know until you ask. And that they were able to create that. It really definitely had a significant impact on me when I was watching. It was like, oh shit. And I'm talking about like an inspirational impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really surprised, like sometimes when I get videos, I'm like, I'm not sure what we're going to get,
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, okay, well, that's cool. And then sometimes you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we, to be pleasantly surprised by that. That was, and I think the other thing is that, you have to show respect to people who have put this together. I mean, they had a whole team. Oh, even if it's just one person, even if you're filming it on an iPhone, I think it's important to have, some respect.
100%.
Because they're like, this is like their baby.
Fuck yeah.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So, that's why I wanted to make sure we had good sound.
Yeah.
People can see it, and
it was a good screen. Was that the library screen
that was
there?
The library screen.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think, I hope people will say, yeah, like yourself, like I think I want to do something.
There's people right now making their film for part 2. So Sam, you got to say it now. It's happening. It's happening. You heard that, Rolando Library or wherever? It's happening.
It's happening.
And it should, because it was such a great turnout. So many people, it was, like I said, the audience was super engaged. Everybody had a great time. So it seems like something like that definitely needs a sequel.
It's funny because that really brought out a lot of interest. Like, I got a call from Beth Accomando at KPBS.
Oh, hell yeah.
And we did an interview. I got a call from Union Tribune.
I saw the article.
Yeah.
So fucking... The only qualification for the show, it's got to be strange.
Right.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. It has to be.
It has to be.
There's got to be a thread of weirdness in it.
Right. So. For it. Did anybody send anything in and you said it wasn't weird enough?
No.
That would be tough, right? Because a weird is kind of subjective.
It is subjective. And, not everything was, like, completely strange.
But most were, in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And it was, there was a lot of them that, even the one, I was surprised at the budget of the human. It was like an alien. Oh, my God. I was just like, you could tell there's like 2 or 3 cameras in there.
Yeah,
I was like,
they did real good.
Really,
and everybody
good.
was like, where's the rest of it? They wanted to see that.
And I remember she was like, well, funding. And that's everybody's thing,
Yeah,
it's
money,
like
man.
Money. Yeah, it's tough.
We got to find a way to because there's money. I mean, art people are getting it.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to get some.
100%.
What do we do?
Well, especially what you do. I mean, there's a justification for it because you're providing this space. You're providing, that film community. You brought people together. So, I mean, there's a huge justification for that because that's not happening much in San Diego. I mean, there is cool spots in San Diego. There is a film life here, but for especially like alternative cinema and just people just kind of outsider art and everything like that, like there's a more of a need for that, and you are providing that just even yourself in like this DIY fashion of just getting shit done, which is like so it's, and I want to find a different word than inspiring. There's another word that I will think of, but it is kind of how you've been able to maneuver and do things just by having the thought in your brain and then doing it, and not always wondering, right, where am I going to get funding from, or how am I going to get money? I mean, I'm sure these things come up. I mean, it's part of life, but not letting that be the obstacle that just stops you from doing anything.
Right.
You know?
It's a challenge. I was thinking about this in the shower today.
Right.
Like, what does stay strange? And I think, beyond the idea of bringing cool things to San Diego, I think, stay strange has been something for me that was like mentally satisfying. Like beyond, if you could strip away the idea of like noise and experimental music, Stay Strange has been something that's kind of grounded me and given me like a purpose.
Yeah.
But it's also been like a mental, like I don't know how to say it. Like, it's good for me and it's good for my brain.
Yeah.
And it's good for like my everything to put together these shows, kind of as a, I don't know how to say it, kind of as a, like a self-help kind of thing, which is really weird to say, like,
but it gives you purpose.
Yeah. And it gives me a purpose, and the fact that, we can come in budget and in time, I think is also a huge thing, for what we're doing.
But when you created it, I wonder, were you cognizant of like, okay, I'm creating Stay Strange because this is going to give me purpose, or?
No, not at all. I just was I was sort of like grandfathered into the scene, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So like when the collective that I was in, I sort of just kind of like picked up where they left off and did my own thing, bringing in a little bit more harsher, like more of the street noise type stuff,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. But then I guess later on, you kind of like you're hardwired, to make sure everything runs on time and, people are happy. And that feels good.
And were you able to, and now that you say this to me, it was probably even more challenging for you during, the lockdown and COVID times, because this was something that was challenging your purpose. This was something that was actively trying to take away the thing that was giving you purpose.
And that's why I started Street Creep, to be honest.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, it was like there was a void. And so I started to do this thing so like the Street Creep, it's our bicycle crew. Well, it's a bicycle crew, but it was just me going around the town, tripping on weird stuff. Also kind of trying to incorporate a lot of the street art that's in San Diego.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like those things, bikes and street art.
Together, yeah.
But on top of that, I would put noise music from artists on top.
Oh, shit.
So in a way, it was like, well, I don't have the opportunity to do shows.
Yeah.
Let me do this instead. And so a lot of those early episodes were like that, where it was an artistic, viewpoint on San Diego. Also bringing music into it as well. And so, that's what happened, man. I filled that void with the Street Creep videos.
And video. I mean, have you done video like that in the past? Have you ventured into, because I see a lot of people like videotaping you, like your live performances, where you're the one being documented, but where it's you documenting. Is that something that's fairly new?
Xavier Vasquez, do you know him? You probably. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He worked with me, with like really like documenting the shows, like in a really beautiful professional sort of way. And then, I think he got busy with other projects. And so I started to just, with the GoPro kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just to have it documented.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started to do these really short, like TikTok type things.
Okay.
Just, like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Yep. Yep.
Just little 30-second little things, that I put together. And those are super fun.
Hell yeah.
To put something in 30 seconds.
It's an art in itself.
It's beautiful.
It's easy for us to make fun of, or it's only 30 seconds, but try doing it.
Yeah.
And condensing a thought and a reaction in that amount of time. It's very difficult.
Yeah. And so that's, I started to do that.
And is that where the Are You Strange episodes came? Was it around the COVID time too? Which is a YouTube series.
Right, yeah. Are You Strange? A lot of those shows were supposed to have been kind of like inviting artists to be a part of it. But yeah, the Are You Strange definitely came out of that.
Out of that too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you going to do more documenting in the future? Do you feel like did you enter a film into the short film festival? One of Sam Lopez.
I did 3 of them.
Oh shit!
Well,
which ones?
So it was the first one with XR, Javier Ramirez, and he was fighting the mountain.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember that one.
Fighting the mountain.
Yeah, XR was a performance artist.
Okay.
And or he probably still is. And we got invited to perform at Balboa Park.
Oh, okay.
I did 3 different shows. One there in the, I think it's called Palm Canyon, maybe. Where the trees, and it's just canyon, and he set up something in the canyon, and so I submitted that just because I wanted people to see it, because I think that was an important thing. Another piece was when we did something called Figment in Chicano Park.
Oh yes.
And we invited the community to come and play noise on these noise making things we had.
Hell yes.
And there was one guy who was playing the guitar, and it was going through a bunch of effect pedals, and that was beautiful because at that moment he was like the star,
Hell yeah.
And you can see in his face that he was so happy that he was the star. And that was the point of everyone is a star. And then another one where my buddy Hirsch, he had cans, and he was doing this weird kind of vocalizing thing, and those were just mine.
So you are a filmmaker?
Sure.
Fuck yes. Okay. What's next for Sam Lopez?
What's next? Yeah, I don't know.
I say it just that seemed like the most generic question, the most like, I mean, more of like to kind of to get us excited in a way. These are it's just coming from somebody who's followed you all these years. It's like you never know which way you're gonna turn or what you're gonna do. So
well, okay, that's a good. So I think my goal is to be able to do a Stay Strange show at a cemetery.
Oh shit!
Like that's to me is like that one's hard, because there's not a lot of opportunities. I was able to do some shows as the Sorcerer Family when we were on tour. We did Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and the very rural cemeteries, and I did little pieces, there. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, that was cool. But like nobody was. They were like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But here in San Diego, I think it's a little bit harder. Some of these cemeteries have Day of the Dead celebrations,
right?
And at first, that's where I got the idea. I was like, wait a minute, you've got the mariachis playing.
Yeah.
Well, why can't I do something,
Oh, yeah.
So, I've been trying to reach out to a couple different cemeteries and haven't really had good luck.
But that's definitely something on the list of this year to be like, oh, I want to pursue this. This is the next thing that you want to actualize.
That's what I want to do.
So we have the Short Film Festival Part 2. We have the cemetery show. Hell yeah.
So I'm going to do it somehow. I don't know how.
And I guess this podcast is about movies.
We started out with Gummo.
Right? We started out with Gummo. That was our movie talk. But you know, to me, sound is very cinematic. You know, what you do, everything like that, noise art. And there was but also, I was just thinking because I saw it the other day, you know, a popular movie that's out, Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Everything. There was a scene in that when I thought, and I hope it's not spoiling for anybody. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect. I had thought when there was going to be an explosion of a bomb and everything like that, that, oh my God, this was going to be the chance for him to use all these different noises, and I was going to get a symphony of the ears.
Yeah.
But I think he did the ultimate genius move of having you expect that. But actually, when the bomb actually went off, he took all the sound away.
Yeah.
And it was almost like the absence. You almost see how important sound is when you take it away.
Yeah.
You know, and it's even more powerful, like just the silence of just seeing the images without the sound. And I was just like, wow, that's one of the moments recently where I really appreciated like how big sound design is a part of cinema.
Yeah.
You know, or how sounds can affect, you know, scenes and everything like that. How big a part music is to cinema.
Yeah. And when like you said, when you take it away, now you're using your imagination.
Exactly.
Which is crazy,
Which
right?
is even crazier.
There's a scene in one of the Mission Impossibles where something like that happened, where there was like a bomb that goes off, right? And then do you remember? It was the one, not the most recent one, but the one before that.
And it's like it goes off, and it's almost like everybody's ears are kind of dead, or they're kind of you know,
and it's beauty, right?
It's beauty.
You're like, oh my God, you know. I had a dream once where we were and a bomb went off, right? But when it went off, it was complete silence, just like that.
I'm sure that's weird, how it is. I'm sure, you know, even when he was, you know, probably interviewing people and saying, "Have you ever been around this big, huge explosion and everything like that?" Probably the one thing that they say is that once that happens, that initial bang, it's probably just silence. Your ears go silent,
or the ringing,
exactly. And I think he only left in, when I watched it again, he only left in Oppenheimer's breath, like,
oh yeah.
And I was like, oh damn, that was so fucking, so cinematic,
yeah,
so dramatic. And you know, I don't really follow awards or anything that much, but I hope Christopher Nolan kind of gets his statue.
I think so.
Right? It seems like he had such a consistent career.
Yeah.
And even though Oppenheimer's not a perfect film by any means, it was still a great film. And when you're talking about just, you know, winning like the award at the end, you know, it's never always like the film that I love the most, but I can kind of see how this also has historical context and has all that stuff. So I'm rooting for it.
Yeah. When are the Academy Awards?
I think February. I think this month. I think maybe in a couple weeks. Wow. So I think, but I don't know many. Like I said, I don't follow that horse race as much, you know, because I know a lot of it's political and, you know, oh, this guy's been around forever, let's give him the award, which I totally am for, because these things do deserve awards. I mean, my God, they're huge works of art.
Yeah.
Was there any film this year besides Oppenheimer that you saw that kind of had an effect on you?
God, this year?
Or, I mean, it doesn't even have to be that it came out this year. Maybe did you, you know, even if you saw maybe an older movie this year?
Let me think about that.
For sure. I always blank too. This is, I mean, and I feel like I have a good knowledge of movies sometimes, and then when I get on here, it's like I can't. My brain is just, you know. But that's why I always preface this podcast. I'm not an expert. I just love movies. And, you know.
Well, I can appreciate a movie again. Like I just watched it recently.
Yeah.
Logan's Run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And I just appreciated that there was a really good narrative about friendship.
Okay.
You know. Do you?
Can you tell me a little bit about Logan's Run?
Yeah, Logan's Run was set in some sort of dystopian future where, unfortunately, there's no people of color. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
But that usually happens in the science fiction movies of the 70s. It was a story about like policemen, sort of, and the policemen are called Sandmen.
Okay.
And their job is to kill people who have reached their life expectancy.
Oh shit.
Which I think is like 25 or 30 or something like that.
So population control or something?
Yeah. And so, but there's people who have gone over that expectancy and are fugitives. And so they go and they kill them.
They hunt them down and
kill them and with a weird looking gun. And I always liked that movie. I just loved the feel of Logan's Run, you know. But you know, I didn't quite grasp earlier that there's two runners, or two, they call them runners. The people who are running the fugitives, they call them runners.
Okay.
But the two Sandmen, you know, one of them has has found the truth that this is all bullshit. You can live past however you want to live.
Yeah.
However you want to live. The other runner is like, no, you live by the rules, and that's it. And so you have this kind of like thing going on between the two Sandman policemen, and they're chasing each other at the end. But I think one of them, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But something happens, and you realize, man, that was fucked up. Like, one guy, this might even happen to you.
Yeah.
It happened to me. You had a friend.
Yeah.
And the friend says, hey, I really like, X. And you're like, wow, that's weird because X is fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
There's problems with that. I mean, there's limitations.
Yeah.
And, you wind up splitting up, and that's always kind of a fucked up thing.
When you have a friend and then suddenly that friend has a divergence of opinion.
Yeah.
When it's a huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I had a friend, this is a story. I love this.
Yeah.
Is a story.
Yeah.
I used to play in a praise and worship band.
Okay.
Back in kind of like right before I started doing noise. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my friend, he really good musician, right? And we would play like punkish type stuff.
Okay.
And I was like, I wrote this song. I was in the zone of this praise and worship thing.
Yeah.
And it's about not spirituality, but like God. And he was like, oh man, I can't. That's against my belief.
Oh shit.
Damn. So we had to like split up in a way, but he was so good.
And he couldn't make music together anymore.
Right.
Oh wow.
Because the thing about it was that like that scene was very black and white. Either you're on this side or you're on this side, and there's no in between.
Wow.
So I to this day I feel kind of bad that sort of happened. Like maybe so that Logan's Run is just like that, where you've got two people from opposing viewpoints, and they really couldn't meet up. Oh, I watched a movie called Blood Simple.
Oh, the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Fuck yes.
That was interesting.
Fuck yes. Yeah. Well, that's I think one of their first films.
Yeah.
And it even has Francis, I think, McDormand in there, which he eventually, one of the brothers have married.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like a cowboy cop, or maybe he was a hitman or something, right?
Hitman.
There's such great characters.
It was the dude from Back to School. Remember Back to School?
Oh yeah, and he had yes, with the Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, and he was the swim coach.
Oh, that's right. And he was Southern accent, or wait,
maybe in the movie.
In the movie,
had one like that. Yeah,
he's got a yellow. The cowboy had a yellow suit and everything like that, and
he was like the ultimate badass. And
fuck yeah,
that was good. I mean, that was cool. I love For me, one of the best movies in the world is No Country for Old Men.
Oh yes.
To me, it's like that's just so.
It's poetic.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think we're spoiling anything now, but I mean, just the ending and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's just you don't see many films like that anymore that are willing to just take you along for a ride with somebody that is kind of an anti-hero. You really don't you're questioning their morality a lot of time, but then you also want to see them survive. You don't want to see anything happen to them. And then they bite the bullet at the end, and then you're just like left to just sit with it. And that was, and then, but then you have the Tommy Lee Jones kind of narrative that's really the movie. Like it's really about him and his struggles and his stories, and all of this is just kind of symbolic to what he's going through and how he's feeling, which like No Country for Old Men. He's like, what's happening to this world?
Right.
The world he grew up in. It just seems like everybody's more violent. Everybody's more just callous.
Yeah.
Everybody's greedy. There's less values, spiritual values and everything. And he was having to grapple with this, but maybe that's just a cycle that as people get to a certain age, you feel like things are getting worse.
Yeah.
And
I'm done.
Yeah. And but then if you understand that it's a cycle, then maybe when you get to that certain age, you can push back against it a little bit and not fall into like, well, everything was so much better in my day and everything like that. You could just, like we were talking earlier, you just try to have a balance of both, embracing and not thinking that everything's so dreadful in the future.
Right.
But then also holding true to your values that you've gained. And that's part of your superpower of being born in an earlier age and being a little older and wiser, is that you still can, you see a world with those values, and you see like, okay, I have to keep this here. Like if it's important, I need to make sure this next generation knows why these values are important.
Right.
As opposed to just going along with whatever the new generation does and be like, oh, whatever. It's like, you got to also be willing to experiment, but also bring something to the table too, that your wisdom has gained up over time that you could share.
Sharing is important. Speaking of sharing, I was always have this conversation. It's like, when are your children old enough to watch Clockwork Orange?
I know. Wow, I would say, and my parents took me to see Pulp Fiction when I was 11, in the theaters. I don't think they knew what it was, but I remember seeing movies like that at a young age. And but Clockwork Orange specifically, definitely one of my favorite films, but it does have some elements, that I would be timid about watching with my daughter at such a young age, so, but then again, I don't want to be hypocritical because I probably saw it when I was 14. Yeah. So I don't want to be overprotective because, my God, the film is such art.
Yeah.
I don't want to be so coy with my, I don't want her to see anything, nudity or anything like that, but then I'll show her Chucky. And for some reason, I don't have that mental thing with that, with
the gore.
Exactly, with the gore. The gore is fine. But when you start going to these other places that are probably more natural, as human beings than gore.
Yeah.
I start to my own. I even talking about this, I feel like there's sweat on my brow. I get just uncomfortable, But I don't mind being uncomfortable, but because you have to wrestle with these questions because I do love A Clockwork Orange. Yeah. I dressed like the main character for Halloween a few years back. Me and Claudia both had the little glass of milk and, and not to idolize that character, but just more to idolize that film. Mm-hmm. That was Kubrick's, one of his masterpieces. And it's just like, it's one of those films that I feel. It's an essential film. It needs to be seen, but at what age? I don't know.
Yeah, what age?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think I was the same way. I think... well, it's funny because I think I first learned about A Clockwork Orange through Mad Magazine.
Oh, shit.
When I was like super young, and then maybe seeing a still or something, and then like finally going, wow, what is that? Let me check that out. But yeah, it's cool. That we live in that age where that was around.
Yeah, but I wonder even. But we're also going through a time of I know it goes off and on throughout time, but sometimes stuff is a little bit more censored than other times, and a film like Clockwork Orange, I don't know if you could screen it everywhere right now, So, but that is it's unquestionable in my mind, no matter how you feel about it, that is like high art, in the way that it's just like it's undeniable.
Right.
Of how that film makes you feel when you watch it, and just that it's taking the time to have, it has societal questions that it's asking, and everything like that about censorship itself, and about can people be redeemed, and what is it, can you take somebody who's antisocial or whatever and then make and socialize them,
right?
Through these harsh procedures or just through brainwashing or anything like that, and these are things that need to be tackled because they're things that people think about, these are big societal issues. Are, when people do make a mistake and they go to prison and they come out, why aren't they given that second chance? Why aren't they allowed to redeem themselves and stuff like that? So I think it's more prevalent now than ever. And I love that film.
Yeah. The book has a, like an extra chapter.
Yeah.
I guess, where he like grows up.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I love life now.
Exactly.
I have children.
I think there was a little disagreement between the Anthony Burgess author and Kubrick, right? Of like,
Kubrick wanted him to stay evil, right? And be the malevolent guy that.
Well, to show that it was all a farce. Like right at the end, you're shot. You think, okay, he's fixed and everything, but then it just does that last shot in his mind of what he's really thinking about it, and it's all still there. And I think that's Kubrick. I mean, that's just a little bit of a cynical viewpoint. That's what, that was probably his viewpoint of it. It's just like everything.
Have you watched a movie in the theater specifically, and when the movie ends, you get up and go, yeah.
Well, I'm usually the guy, if I really love the movie, I try to start the the clap. It's sometimes 90% of the time
nobody bites.
Nobody bites, but sometimes. I think Poor Things recently. We watched Poor Things on Christmas Day. We watched it at the Grove in Hollywood because we were visiting Claudia's parents and everything like that. And it was a sold out show. And I was just like, oh my God. And that was another movie that it was me, Claudia, and Ice. And I didn't know, like, there was a lot of just just graphic nudity and stuff like that in there. But like I said, it's like kind of like Clockwork Orange, is that it's for a higher purpose. Like this is obviously a higher artistic film, and then I was about to start my clap, but before I started my clap, there was like 4 or 5 other people clapping ahead of me. So it was like, they beat me to it, and then the whole theater kind of clapped, and I was like, and I love that, dude. I love going to the movies, and I love going to the movies with an audience that really like gives high respect to the fucking, whether it's a masterpiece or not.
Right.
When a movie ends, and all those fucking people that are on the fucking cast or screen and all the people that were involved. I mean, what other form of art is like that where there's that much of a collaboration? You better fucking clap at the end.
Yeah.
Like I teach ice. Even when we're watching TV, I fucking clap. I'm like, dude, this is like, it's just a show of respect. And, especially, and that, but have I in the movie after jumped up? I can't think of what. Have you done it recently or?
Midsummer at the end, like the very, very end where, she's so bummed out. And then the last shot is she's smiling. And then,
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
That was so good.
That was a modern masterpiece. Yeah. That guy, Ari Aster.
Yeah.
With the back-to-back Hereditary and Midsummer, it usually takes about 3 or 4 films for me to be like, oh, I'm obsessed with this.
He's good, yeah.
But it was after, Hereditary was like, oh shit, that was a blast onto the scene.
Right.
That's fucking insane. And and I thought maybe he was helped by, he had such good acting. Toni Collette was in it, maybe that elevated it, whatever. You start, because you're like, can this guy really be that good this quickly?
Yeah.
And then, boom, Midsummer comes out, and then I was done. I'm a convert. And that movie, and a lot of people didn't like that film, but for me, I love that even more than Hereditary.
Yeah. When
I was watching it, I'm like, this guy made me feel like I'm on some kind of psychedelic trip.
Yeah.
And he gets that tone just right.
Right.
Which is, like I said, another thing that people think, oh, you're just making a druggy movie or whatever.
Right.
It's fucking not easy, because you can go into parody, you can, this and that, but he holds that tone of underlying horror, in the brightness of day.
Right. Which is the scariest thing,
Which is the scariest thing.
You're used to the dark holding the shadows, but when it's light, you're like, fuck.
Exactly. And that movie was all light.
It was all light.
And it was another movie that made you question, like, were the people that they were following, that quote unquote cult, were they that bad in the sense of, like, were they just living the values that they were taught?
Yeah.
Like, you see the gruesome scenes of when same thing as, like, they get to a certain age, I think 75, and they feel like that's the end of their life, and then they basically have a ceremony
right.
And that was the initial incident in Midsummer that got everybody horrified, right? Everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on? But
the hammer.
For me, in my mind, I'm like, okay, like, is he trying to say, like, that's just us going to another place that's different than us and bringing our own projections onto it and judging these people?
Yeah. When
really this is what they've known, and actually maybe this is a higher form of respect for life than even we have.
Right.
Sometimes we let people get old, and then we put them in a home or something. We don't even give any honor at the end of their life.
Right.
So it does make you kind of question, like, oh shit, and that's why, and then the whole thing about, like you said, she's smiling at the end when her boyfriend burns. It's kind of it feels like it's a breakup movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you just had it in the simplest of terms, like, oh, okay, this is just a couple breaking up, but taken to the fucking symbolic extremes.
Right.
And that's why I fucking love.
Yeah.
Fucking love that movie. And did you like Beau is Afraid, his follow-up?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would check it out. It's a 3-hour opus, and it's not very horror elements or anything like that, but there's 3 certain sections in it, like 3 parts. And I just love the first part the most. I feel like if you watch it, he does kind of this thing where Beau is living in downtown, like a modern downtown setting. Mm-hmm. And when me and Claudia watch it, we're like, oh my God, we're just reminded of living in like above the House of Blues, like downtown, everything like that. And just kind of just that vibe he gets so well, but he just turns it up to like an 11 or 12 just to make a point. But he does get that feeling of just like dread and doom. And even the happy, the most calmest of places, like, it's always underneath the surface at any moment.
Yeah.
Doom.
Have you seen After Hours?
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Right? I think maybe a couple of years ago, I had caught it. I watched a movie podcast and they recommended it because they're like, this is such an out of the box Scorsese film. Like, it doesn't really fit in his catalog, but they're like, it's a genius comedy.
Yeah.
How did you feel about
that
it?
sense of dread, like that whole movie is to me is a sense of dread. I was just, yeah, the things that he goes through, you know, to get where he ultimately, you know, winds up at. It's like, you know, you feel like you're on the road with him.
I love those kind of movies that it's kind of like maybe one day in the life, or it's not like a long epic. It's just like, okay, I got to get through this day. Almost like Uncut Gems kind of style, you know, like, or, you know, you're following this one character and just fucking, it's just anxiety ridden because maybe this character that you're following isn't making the best decisions.
Yeah.
When he's gambling, he's doing all these things, and you're watching like, oh my God, what are you doing? No. You're like screaming. But it freaking, it's just a high energy type of film.
Yeah.
That I just, it's in my zone, my pocket of like, oh, I love those kind of movies,
right.
you know? But I also love sprawling,
Yeah.
you know, things that take their time.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, there's those, like, what were the Amazing Race? Like, have you watched any of those?
No.
Where it's like they drop you off and there's like 40 of them, and then they have to get to one place, and whoever gets there first is the winner.
Yeah.
But you have to go through like mud and mountains and crocodiles and piranhas and shit like that.
Yeah.
Those, I love those. I love that, like, oh my God, you know, like those high sense of tension, you know, you're like, oh.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
It's as crazy, like, which I, you know, like you were saying, I just love those kind of, you know, those kind of movies, you know,
right?
Or those ideas where you're just like, oh,
where you physically feel it.
Yeah.
And I love feeling uncomfortable with them. I think that's the thing of it. It's like I love when people are taking me to the point where I'm even like, you know, I'm you know, feeling insecure about myself or about my life. I just love when something's able to put me in that mind state, because it just juggles you out of your usual thing of like, all right, I got these things on my checklist. How do I check them off?
Right.
You know, and that's just my mind most of the time with the business and, you know, everything else, family life, business life. It's like a bunch of checklists.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, how do I get all this stuff done just so I can maintain, you know, all this other thing?
Right.
You know, but when you have something that's like shooting you in the face and making you question your whole existence and making you, you know, I love that because it's just, it gives you a chance of being like, well, any day could be different, and I could just suddenly, my mind could turn in this way, and I could realize that I was doing something wrong. You know, you always want to feel like you could have that epiphany.
Right.
You know? So that's what movies do for me sometimes, especially those great movies like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Dude, Sam, thank you again.
Thank you.
That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You know, Stay Strange, 10 plus years. 10 plus fucking years.
It's a long time.
That's fucking dope. And I just am more excited now than ever to just see where you go next, or what you do next, or what pops into your mind, or what thing you try to actualize next, because you do bring that fucking just outsider mindset to San Diego. You have a space for people that appreciate outsider art and all this experimental stuff, and it's like you have to keep creating because you're giving such a space to other people. You've built this community, so it's like it's very fucking cool.
Thank you.
To know what, or to even not know what you're doing next.
Yeah.
You know, just like, okay,
What's next?
What's next? And not even answer it. Just let it hang.
Yeah, let it hang.
What is next?
Yeah.
But the one thing for sure is that everyone should stay strange.
Yes.
No matter what that strange means to you, stay strange, be yourself, love life, and just love the people around you. And love movies.
Love movies.
Love movies. Fuck yeah. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, bro. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.